She revealed the heartwarming truth. The greatest gift would be if you'd vanish from our lives. Amelia sat at the kitchen table, watching her son Jake, his eyes glued to his phone, excitement buzzing in the air. News of his estranged grandfather, George, a wealthy businessman from New York, swept through Willow Creek like wildfire. Amelia's heart sank with a mix of dread and longing. She once had dreams of a life filled with art and beauty, but now she was drowning in bills, hustling through 2 jobs to keep them afloat. And now this was her son's ticket to a different life, a life that she feared might pull him away from her forever. "Mom, can you believe it?" Jake said, his voice full of raw energy. "Grandpa George is coming to see me. He's a war hero, and maybe I won't have to worry about money anymore." His hopeful face transformed from a boy into someone eager for change. Amelia's chest tightened. She gathered remnants of her past, a paintbrush, a sketchbook, each object a reminder of the artist she once was, before life turned ordinary. "It's great, honey," she managed, forcing a smile, her heart sinking. But differences loomed large. With Jake lifting his dreams to the gilded heights of wealth, Amelia felt anchored to her modest existence. The warmth of Willow Creek dimmed, her son now wrapped in fantasies of luxury that she couldn't offer. When Jake formed a bond with George, a man promising a life filled with opportunities, Amelia's heart shattered. Memories of her father's sacrifices flooded her mind. Did Jake even see the beauty in the struggles they faced? "The greatest gift would be if you'd vanish from our lives," he said one evening, his frustration spilling out in the almost quiet of the room, leaving Amelia gasping for breath. The words echoed in her mind, a chilling reminder of her fears. Before she crumbled, she chose to channel her pain into something powerful. With the annual Community Arts Festival approaching, Amelia began working on a mural, her heart laid bare on every stroke. Each color sung with the love and sacrifice her father had given. She painted a world where community bonds rivaled material wealth, where love reigned over riches. As the festival neared, whispers of admiration floated through Willow Creek, drawing Jake's curiosity, sparking something deep within him. Amelia unveiled the mural, and as the vibrant imagery came to life, hope ignited in Jake's chest. Words of admiration and surprise washed over the crowd as they recognized the labor of love that resonated with their collective spirit. "Mom, this is incredible," Jake breathed, taking a step closer, the vision of prosperity he'd been chasing suddenly flickering. Amelia's eyes sparkled with a mixture of hope and fear, but as the moment swelled with emotional intensity, Jake faced the greatest question of his young life. Would he choose George's world of wealth, or embrace the fragile, beautiful life his mother fought tirelessly to build? The air crackled with unresolved tension, leaving them suspended in a delicate balance between dreams and reality. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Amelia's heart raced, her breath caught as she felt her son grapple with their contrasting futures. In that charged moment, Jake's gaze lingered on the mural, his truths beckoning him closer. Would he finally see the richness in their shared struggles? Or would he succumb to the allure of the life promised by George, putting distance between them? As both stood at a crossroads, the fabric of their relationship trembling on the brink of transformation, waiting for that moment of revelation that would reshape their lives forever. Jake took a step back, his eyes darting between the mural and his mother. The colors danced in the sunlight, each brushstroke playing a note in a symphony of their lives. Suddenly, he felt weighed down by the expectations of both his grandfather and his mother, like a tightrope walker strung between 2 towering buildings. I didn't realize how much you put into this," he finally said, his voice softer now, laced with confusion. "It's beautiful, Mom." Amelia's heart swelled, but the familiar pang of fear lurked just beneath. Thank you, sweetheart. But this is about more than just beauty. It's about hope, community, and love. She reached out to touch his arm, searching for connection in this pivotal moment. But Jake was still turning his thoughts inward, wrestling with the enticing idea that prosperity could be his new reality. The thought of living lavishly with his grandfather tugged at him like a magnet. Would he really be giving all that up? He could envision the life George promised: opportunities, adventure, and a future that sparkled with potential. Yet, there was something undeniable about the warmth radiating from the mural. "Mom, I want a better life," he blurted out, almost offensively. "I want to be successful like him. Doesn't that matter to you?" A silence settled in. Jake's words hung thickly in the air, and Amelia felt her heart shatter. "Of course it matters, Jake. But success doesn't always come with money. It comes with passion, with love, with finding purpose in what we do." He turned away, feeling trapped in a whirlpool of conflicting emotions. Wasn't that what George was promising? A life filled with purpose? The chance to pursue passions without the burden of struggle? Tears threatened to spill, but he fought them back. Without realizing it, his feet carried him closer to the mural. "I mean, you could sell this. People would pay for it. You could help us out. We could go to New York, meet him." Amelia stepped forward, her face illuminated by a mix of desperation and understanding. "Jake, that's not what I want. I don't want you to feel like you have to choose money over what we've built together. This mural, this is our home, our story." As his gaze swept across the mural, Jake found himself captivated by the scenes unfolded. Families together, laughter shared, the struggles they endured reflecting resilience and love. His heart began to pulse anew, a flicker of hope igniting in the shadows of doubt. "Maybe we could find a way for you to work with George, be happy with him, but still have this," he started, uncertainty creeping back into his tone. Amelia's eyes widened, and she saw a glimmer of understanding cross his face, but it wasn't enough. "But will you still come back to this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Will you remember what this stands for?" The question hung between them like an echo, and Jake hesitated. He wanted to say yes, but deep down, he feared he might lose sight of everything they had fought for together. Would George's world drown out their shared laughter and the small things that made life rich? All of this swirled together, and suddenly, in the backdrop of their vibrant lives, Amelia and Jake stood at a crossroad illuminated by love, but shadowed by uncertainty. As they locked eyes, a series of emotions collided: fear, love, longing, and a desperate hope, and they both realized they had to navigate this together, whatever the outcome would mean. Just then, a familiar voice cut through the air, drawing their attention. Jake's phone buzzed with a text, and the world outside awaited. It was a message from George, letting him know he was on the way. The warmth of the moment shattered, replaced by a jarring reality. How would they face George together? What would happen next, as the past and future brushed against each other like strokes on a canvas? Jake's heart raced as he read George's message again. "On my way. Can't wait to see you." The words shimmered with excitement, but they also felt like a ticking clock. Each second that passed drew him closer to a choice, a point of no return. Amelia noticed his expression shift. She stepped forward, needing to fill the chasm. "What did he say?" "Just that he's coming." "He's excited," Jake replied, his voice lowered, uncertainty creeping back into his tone. "I want you to be proud of what you've accomplished, Jake," Amelia said gently, but sadness seeped into her words. "But I also want you to remember where your roots are." Jake nodded, biting his lip. Could he truly carry both worlds? As he glanced again at the mural, the bright colors suddenly held an intensity he hadn't felt moments ago. Each image began to swirl, revealing stories that whispered to him. He thought of the laughter shared on the streets, the potluck dinners spilling into the night, and the family gatherings around that old oak table. "Mom, what if he hesitated? What if I could do both?" Her eyes lit up, but concern still lingered. "Are you saying you would split your time? Maybe I could work with George and still come back. I could help here, too, maybe even bring some of that opportunity back with me." The words spilled from him, fueled by hope that he didn't fully comprehend. Amelia held his gaze, scanning his face for any sign of true conviction. Jake, it's not just about splitting time. It needs to feel whole. It needs to matter. Jake swallowed hard as he felt the weight of her scrutiny. What if I've lost what it can truly mean? What if I start to care more about the fancy things than the people here? He glanced back at the mural, suddenly feeling small beneath its vibrant swirl of faces and memories. Just then, a car pulled up, the sound of gravel crunching under tires filling the silence. George's hulking silhouette emerged from the vehicle, confidence radiating off him like a beacon. Jake felt a surge of nerves. Could he keep his path intact and still embrace the allure of George's world? The two generations were about to collide in a way that felt inevitable, like colors blending on a canvas, but Jake couldn't shake the feeling that each brushstroke came with its own price. What if we lose everything along the way? Jake murmured, uncertainty tightening in his chest. Amelia looked deeply into her son's eyes, her expression tender but firm. You won't know unless you try, Jake. Just promise me this. Keep your heart open. Jake nodded, the confusion in his mind battling with the flickers of aspiration he'd just uncovered. Hey, you two. George called from the driveway, a disarming grin spread across his face. I'm here. Ready for some adventure? With those words, everything intensified. The comfort of home and the allure of a distant future stood in opposition within Jake, and as he stepped forward, he felt the weight of his choices settling on his shoulders. What would George's arrival reveal? Would Jake's heart guide him back or lead him away entirely? The moment was ripe with uncertainty, and only time would tell which road he would ultimately choose. Jake. George called again, his voice booming across the yard like thunder on a clear day. You ready to make some memories? The sound felt like a jolt to Jake's chest. He turned to see George striding toward them, a burst of energy wrapped in a tailored suit, his presence instantly commanding. Amelia stepped back slightly, giving her son space. Jake felt torn. George was a whirlwind of excitement and possibility, yet he also carried the weight of the life Jake had known. Uncertainty mixed with the thrill of the unknown, bubbling in his stomach. Hey, George, Jake said, forcing a smile as he stepped off the porch. The enthusiasm in his voice felt artificial, a mask against the reality of his swirling emotions. Just got your message. I knew you'd get the hang of this art thing, George boomed. He threw an arm around Jake, pulling him in for a quick side hug that felt more rehearsed than genuine. Jake's heart beat faster as he watched George shift easily into the small talk with a confidence Jake admired, but felt distant from. You should have seen the office's reaction to your mural idea. They loved it. It's going to change everything, George continued, his voice full of that undeniable charisma. As Jake laughed at George's enthusiasm, he stole a glance at Amelia. Her smile was tight, the lines of worry etched on her forehead. She raised an eyebrow, signaling for him to tread carefully. Thanks, I guess, Jake said, his voice softer. But I'm still figuring it all out. Figuring it out is part of the adventure, my friend. George responded with a smirk. You're going to learn so much. Just wait until you see the city. It's alive. Jake nodded, but his heart sank slightly. Would he lose the essence of who he was in that bustling world? He remembered the city's vibrancy, but it felt like a distant echo compared to the grounding presence of home. So, what is the plan for the day? Jake asked, trying to break through the haze of his own doubts. First, a little tour to get you acclimated. Then, we go to my office. You're going to pitch your ideas to my team. They're keen to hear from you, George said, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Pitch? Jake felt the knot in his throat tighten. Like now? Just like that? Absolutely. You've got everything you need inside you. I wouldn't steer you wrong. George replied, his confidence unwavering. Jake felt the weight of expectations press deeper. He wanted to believe in George's motivational push, but what if he faltered? What if he didn't live up to whatever vision George held for him? Suddenly, a memory sparked a night spent around the kitchen table, laughter intermingling with the aroma of dinner, family stories flowing. George, what if I told you I want to make this work for both me and the neighborhood? He asked cautiously. George paused, considering. You plan to juggle both worlds? Amelia stepped back into the conversation, an edge of concern coloring her words. It's not as simple as that, George. It's about more than just ambition. Jake felt the air grow thick. Tension crackled as George waved it off casually. Even better. The more you take on, the more you'll grow. Jake knew that was the kind of dare that could lead him astray. The thrill of the city, the excitement of George's world, they were beckoning him. But at what cost? Keep your heart open, Amelia had said, and now it felt like a call to arms. But would it open him to joy, or to an inevitable fracture? Jake took a breath and glanced at George. Let us do this, but on my terms, he declared, his voice ringing clear. George's eyes widened in surprise, but a grin broke across his face. Now that's the spirit. Yet deep within, Jake felt a ripple of doubt. Could he balance those worlds without losing himself? The adventure had begun, but he needed clarity to navigate the journey ahead. As the three of them climbed into George's sleek car, the exhilarating rush of the day ahead awaited. Jake could almost taste the fear and excitement mingling together, an overwhelming sensation. What would be revealed on this journey between two worlds? Would he stand firm in his sense of self, or would he be taken away by the current of ambition? The car hummed to life, a smooth purr that echoed Jake's racing heartbeat. George glanced in the rearview mirror, his grin infectious. You're in for a treat. He chirped, excitement radiating from him like sunshine. Jake forced a smile, his fingers tightening on the edge of his seat. The world outside zoomed by, a blur of colors and sounds that felt both thrilling and overwhelming. Streetlights flickered past, catching snippets of his reflection in the window. He looked unsure, a mix of boyish charm and dawning realization. What do you think of the city so far? George asked, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. It's bright, Jake replied, struggling to find the right words. It was beautiful, sure, but it felt detached, almost alien compared to the familiarity of home. That's just the beginning. Wait until you see the waterfront, George encouraged, gears in his mind already shifting into the next pitch for Jake's ideas. Amelia, seated beside Jake, broke the tension with a gentle nudge. You're brave for taking this step, Jake, she said softly, her voice a calming balm. I'm trying to blend my worlds, Jake replied, his gaze focused out the window as a park whizzed by, kids playing under the fading sun. But I'm scared what that means. Fear is part of it, she reassured him. Just remember you're not alone. As they wove through the busy streets, a familiar jingle caught Jake's attention. A street vendor was selling cotton candy, the sugary cloud floating blissfully in the air, conjuring memories of childhood. For a moment, he felt an urge to jump out of the car, to run hand in hand with his younger self down memory lane, but there was no stopping now. He had to embrace the future, even as it tugged on his roots. I want to make this work, for my home and for myself, Jake said, a little more firmly this time. Exactly. George chimed in, barely able to contain his enthusiasm. Imagine the impact you could have. Your art could bring that neighborhood alive. That word impact resonated in Jake's mind. It felt both powerful and heavy, a monumental task that loomed over him like a storm cloud. What if they're not ready for the change? He asked, doubt creeping in again. They'll love it. George insisted, confidence oozing from his words. You'll find a way to connect the dots. You're the bridge, Jake, just step into it. Jake looked at Amelia, seeking her support. Her smile encouraged him to trust his instincts, to stand strong in the face of rising doubts. As they pulled up to George's office, a towering building that seemed to scrape the sky, Jake felt the weight of expectations settling on his shoulders. He stared at the entrance, a glass door reflecting the vibrant city life, but inside, he wondered what awaited him. What if they don't get it? What if I fail? The question escaped his lips before he had a chance to silence it. Failing is just part of growing, George offered, his tone unyielding. Maybe, Jake murmured, grappling with the reality that failure felt much scarier than anyone let on. They stepped out of the car, and the city rushed in a cacophonous orchestra of honking horns, street performers, and the distant echo of laughter. Standing at the precipice of possibility, Jake pursued the idea of blending ambition with authenticity. Yet as they walked toward the building, something in Jake stirred. He needed to capture the essence of both worlds he straddled. Could he really transform the roles of life he had always known? What would his art reveal if he opened himself up completely to the adventure ahead? Taking a deep breath, he stepped through the glass doors, ready to face the unknown. But deep in his heart, he felt the familiar whisper of a question. Would this moment be the catalyst for his true transformation, or merely a chapter in a story he was still trying to write? With that, they walked on, but with every step, a new question loomed. What sacrifices would be required to merge two lives into one? Inside the building, the air was charged with energy. Jake's feet echoed lightly against the polished floors as they entered the lobby. He could see clusters of people, all moving with purpose, their laughter and conversations swirling around him like the brisk wind outside. George led the way, a beacon of confidence, while Amelia's presence was steady and reassuring. "Just remember, Jake. This is your moment," George said as they approached an elevator. The doors slid open with a soft ding, and they stepped inside. The closeness felt almost suffocating, the anticipation a palpable thing. Jake's heart raced, both from the thrill of what was to come and the crushing weight of uncertainty. As the elevator ascended, he caught a glimpse of Amelia from the corner of his eye. She was studying him, a gentle smile playing on her lips. "You've got this," she whispered, as if sensing his hesitation. In that moment, he felt a flicker of warmth, grounding him. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped into an expansive office with walls adorned with colorful artwork. It was a space alive with creativity, and Jake's breath hitched as he took it in. People buzzed around like bees, filled with purpose and passion. But the more he looked, the more he felt like an outsider peering through a glass wall. "Welcome to my creative haven," George announced, throwing his arms wide as if inviting Jake into a grand event. The fervor in his tone was infectious, and Jake could feel a sliver of excitement ignite within him. But that resounding question still loomed large. Was he ready for this? He could see a group huddled in discussion, animatedly sharing ideas. One artist sketched furiously, while another tweaked a digital project on a sleek screen. It was all so impressive, so far removed from his comfort zone back home. Could he really contribute to this whirlwind of talent? Before Jake could retreat into his thoughts, George called out, "Everyone, gather round. I want you to meet Jake." The room shifted attention, and suddenly, all eyes were on him. He felt a rush of heat flood his cheeks, and he took a half step back, ready to melt into the wall. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward. "Hey, I'm Jake," he said, his voice a mixture of hope and fear. "I'm here to share some ideas about blending community art with personal stories." The words tumbled out, cautiously at first, but gaining strength as they left his mouth. An older woman in the front nodded enthusiastically. "Stories and art are made to be intertwined. What kind of stories do you have in mind?" The earnestness of her inquiry made his heart skip a beat. Jake felt his confidence start to build. "I want to capture the essence of neighborhoods, showcasing their heart through mural art. I believe it can change how people feel about where they live, and that change can inspire unity." As he spoke, he saw George's approving smile from the corner of his eye. "Now we're talking," George added, his energy infectious. "In fact, our team could use someone who thinks outside the box." Jake's mind raced. Each word exchanged felt like a promise of possibilities. Could he really become the bridge? But as his ideas started to flow, so did the memories of home grappling with the bittersweet sensitivity of loss. Would his art be enough? Would its impact resonate deeply enough to unite the worlds he felt torn between? After the initial discussions, Jake was invited to present a concept for a mural. He felt exhilaration and anxiety battling inside him. As he gathered his sketches, he caught Amelia's encouraging gaze, firm in her belief. But just as he immersed himself in the creative process, a disquieting thought gnawed at him. Was he ready to show them not just art, but pieces of himself that had remained buried? What would happen if they reached too far into his past? With this spiraling question echoing in his mind, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that each stroke of the brush would be a revelation or a regret. How much of his heart could he truly expose as he stood before the gathered crowd, ready to share not just his art, but the essence of who he was, he couldn't help but wonder. Would revealing his vulnerabilities bring them together or create an insurmountable divide? Jake stood before the crowd, his heart racing like a drumbeat in his chest. The nervous whispers among the audience hinted at anticipation. George's encouraging nod, Amelia's unwavering support, these anchors wove a thin thread of courage in him. He glanced down at his sketches, each one infused with moments and memories, a patchwork of his journey so far. As he began to speak, his voice wavered slightly. "This mural," he started, gesturing toward the largest sketch, "is more than just colors on a wall. It's a reflection of my neighborhood, a tapestry of stories that deserve to be told." He realized he was speaking about more than art. He was stepping into the complexity of his own life. Each section represents a different story, he continued, motioning to the swirling colors and shapes. "This one," he pointed to a vibrant panel depicting children playing in a park, "captures the laughter and innocence we often overlook. And this one," he said, now pointing at a darker section filled with shades of blue and gray, "represents the struggles we face, the pain that lingers like an uninvited guest." The older woman who had encouraged him leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with understanding. "It's beautiful, Jake. You're not just creating art, you're giving voice to the community. But are you ready to share your story?" Her question hung in the air, like an electric current. Jake swallowed hard. He thought of the moments to come, the losses he had endured, the dreams that had slipped through his fingers. I want to," he admitted, surprised by the weight of his own honesty. "But what if they don't accept it? What if my past only brings them down?" A collective silence fell as he looked around the room, reading the faces before him. Curiosity mingled with compassion in their expressions. With each heartbeat, he felt the urge to step back, to hide once more. But then he recalled Amelia's smile. It filled him with strength, urging him on. "You're not alone in this," she had told him earlier. "Let them in, Jake." Taking a deep breath, he forged ahead. "You see, I lost my brother last year, the one who always believed in my art when I doubted myself. And there's a part of me that still struggles with that loss. It's terrifying to think of sharing these parts of me that feel so raw." His voice cracked just slightly, but he pressed forward. "But I believe that if we can be genuine about our struggles, it might spark something better. Maybe it can build a bridge." A profound stillness greeted his revelation. He could sense the room processing his story and how deeply vulnerable it made him feel. The same older woman nodded with a soft smile. "The truth has a way of connecting people, Jake. Your journey might resonate. It could inspire healing, not just for you, but for those who feel lost too." Jake finally let a sliver of hope pulse through his veins. Was it possible that in sharing his heavy truths, he could not only lighten his own load but offer solace to others? The realization that his pain could cultivate connection began to bloom. "Thank you, everyone," he said, his voice steadier now. "I'm ready to share this mural with you and let it tell our stories, both the joy and the sorrow." As the crowd erupted into applause, Jake felt a weight lift from his shoulders, replaced with budding anticipation. But as he faced the cheering audience, a thought struck him. This was just the beginning. What would it mean for him if he entrusted them with even more of himself? If he opened up about his struggles with acceptance and the shadows of his past, in that moment of applause, deep down he wondered, would revealing his truth offer the unity he craved or unleash a storm he wasn't prepared to face? The applause faded, but the warmth lingered in the air like a sweet memory. Jake stood there, soaking in the moment, but his heart thundered and doubts began to creep in once more. He felt exposed in a new way, like he had peeled back layers of skin to reveal something soft and fragile. How could he possibly follow that moment with another truth? Behind him, George stepped forward, his voice projecting over the dwindling cheers. "Jake, don't forget this mural isn't just yours. It belongs to all of us. Your story weaves into ours." Jake nodded, but anxiety twisted in his gut. The idea of sharing more haunted him. Could he bear the weight of others' expectations? He looked at George's encouraging smile, at Amelia still beaming with pride, and felt their faith bolstering him again. "Thank you, George," Jake replied, his voice steadier. It means a lot to know this mural is driven by the community as much as my own experiences. Yet, he still felt a flicker of fear, the fear of being misunderstood, of his past overshadowing his present. Amelia took a step forward, mirroring the confidence of George. This is a great opportunity, Jake. Not just for you, but for everyone who has shared in your journey. It could help others open up their stories too. As she spoke, something shifted in Jake. He took a steadying breath, letting the air fill his lungs. I know I have a lot to figure out, but I hope sharing all this can inspire others. Maybe together we can heal. The way the crowd leaned in, eager to hear more, showed their hearts were open. He focused on the mural, its colors blending into each other, the joy intertwined with sorrow. Every stroke of the brush is like my own heartbeat, filled with love, fear, and hope. But then, as if the universe conspired to test his resolve, a young woman in the crowd stepped forward. Jake, I had no idea about your brother. I'm so sorry for your loss. It's brave of you to share. Her voice cracked just a bit, pulling at his heartstrings. His pulse quickened as he saw her eyes glisten with understanding. What you're doing, it's important. Can you tell us why you chose to paint these specific moments? A weight hung heavy in the air. Jake felt a wave of uncertainty wash over him. He had been prepared to talk about the mural, about his brother, but this felt deeper. It was an invitation to dive into the pain again, to share the grief that still clung to him. He swallowed hard. I chose them because they reflect not just what I lost, but what I still have. The laughter of kids in the park, the heaviness of loss, all are part of me and this community I love. I guess I'm still learning how to navigate that and how to let others in. Hushed murmurs passed through the crowd. He could feel their empathy wrapping around him. He realized that by revealing his struggle with acceptance, he could touch on something universal. Everyone carried their own burdens, even if they were unseen. Amelia stepped back closer to him, her eyes sparkling. And in sharing our burdens, Jake, we lighten the load for each other. As he looked out into the welcoming faces, a flicker of determination ignited within him. He wasn't just standing here for himself. He was speaking for those who felt voiceless, those who hid their stories. But just then, a shadow of fear crept in. Would this vulnerability lead him straight into a path of healing? Or would it crack open wounds he wasn't ready to face? The audience awaited, an ocean of expectation before him. Without realizing it, Jake had taken a step forward, his heart racing against the drums of his chest again. I want to share my truth more fully. There's something else beneath the surface of my story, something that could connect us, if only I'm brave enough to say it. The moment felt electric. A hunger for understanding, a thirst for authenticity pulled at everyone present. The crowd leaned in, eyes wide, and Jake knew he stood on the edge of something monumental. What would happen next if he dared to delve deeper into his truth? Jake's heart raced as silence enveloped the crowd. He could feel the weight of their anticipation. It felt like a barrier between him and the words he wanted to release. The vibrant mural loomed behind him, yet it felt pale compared to the vivid explosion of emotions swirling inside. I've lived in my brother's shadow for far too long, he began, barely above a whisper. When he passed, I thought I would crumble. But what I really didn't understand was that my grief, my rage, and my guilt were a part of my story waiting to be told. The honesty in his voice cracked through the facade. He glanced at George, who nodded encouragingly, and then at Amelia, her eyes shimmering, reflecting a mix of patience and understanding. Encouraged, he continued. I buried myself in art after his death. It was supposed to be a way to escape, but it was more of a prison. The paint became my solace, but it also hid me. I've been afraid of stepping out and being seen as just Jake, not Jake, the brother of the one who saved everyone except himself. There was a murmur in the crowd. He could see faces contort in empathy and pain, recognizing pieces of themselves in his story. Every brushstroke I made felt like a catharsis, yet speaking about the pain was always a step too far. I wondered if the truth would shatter me or if it would finally set me free. He paused, feeling the beat of his heart echoing through the silence. For so long, I felt like I had to be the strong one. But he hesitated. What if being strong means being vulnerable? The crowd paused, absorbing his words. Jake could sense the connections forming, invisible threads between him and those who stood before him. Just to shed the narrative of being brave. Just to be human. He swallowed back the lump in his throat. I want you to know that pain is not shameful. It's part of living. Painting this mural was my way of restoring, of creating something beautiful from the wreckage. But life, it keeps coming. There are moments when I feel overwhelmed, suffocated by memories that refuse to fade. He looked into the crowd, meeting the empathetic gazes. And I thought maybe my truth could spark something for you. Perhaps in sharing our truths, we give each other permission to breathe. A quietness wrapped around him like a soft blanket. The energy shifted, moving from an electric anticipation to a palpable warmth of connection. I still miss him. I still wish things were different. But what if I told you that it's okay to admit the struggle? He pushed, finding his voice gaining strength. What if we could hold each other as burdens and help one another rise together? The crowd leaned in closer, drawn together as if by a magnetic force. Amelia stepped forward, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. You're not alone, Jake. None of us are. Jake drew in a shaky breath, letting that truth resonate. But just then, a man in the back cut through the moment, his voice rough yet deep. What if you feel it was all for nothing? What then? Jake's heart sank. The raw edge of that question cut deeper than he expected. He felt all eyes shift to him. His mind raced as he grappled with the implications. What would he say? Could he stand up against that fear, against the possibility that he had failed? The energy in the air turned from hopeful to charged with uncertainty. In that moment of vulnerability, the crowd braced for his answer, the tension rising once more. How could he respond to such a haunting doubt? Each heartbeat echoed louder as he stood at another crossroads, torn between the darkness that had once owned him and the light that beckoned him to step forward. Would he allow the fear of futility to freeze him in place, or would he embrace the journey and answer the question? Jake closed his eyes for a moment, ready to confront the very thing that had held him back. Jake took a breath, grounding himself as he turned to face the man who had voiced the harsh question. The room stilled, the weight of the moment pressing down on them like a heavy fog. I don't have all the answers, he began, his voice steady despite the tremors of uncertainty beneath it. But I can tell you this, feeling it was all for nothing is a trap. It's easy to let grief define our stories. But instead, what I've learned is that it's possible for pain to teach us something, to prompt change. Even if it feels like we're lost, we can still forge new paths. The crowd was silent, the air thick with understanding. Jake kept speaking, his own words reflecting the discovery he was grappling with. My brother's life wasn't a waste. He inspired me to take risks, to find beauty in darkness. My struggle is part of my art now. It breathes life into it. It's a chance to connect, to share, and to heal. Each word resonated, traveling through the room like ripples in water, slowly expanding outward. Jake could see heads nodding, people processing his words and relating them to their own experiences. The man who had posed the question softened, his expression shifting from judgment to something deeper, more introspective. So it's about finding the strength to transform pain into purpose? He asked, his voice quieter now. Exactly, Jake replied, feeling a flood of relief wash over him. It's about rewriting our narratives. Our scars are part of our story, but they don't have to be the end. It can be the start of something new. Amelia felt her chest swell, a mixture of pride and love washing over her as she witnessed the transformation taking place not just in Jake, but also in everyone gathered. For her, it was as if layers of doubt were peeling away, revealing the community that had always stood strong underneath. Jake, your truth matters, she said softly, stepping forward. Your vulnerability is the spark that ignites others to connect. We all have our battles. Let us embrace that together. One by one, around the room, people began to share their own stories, their struggles, their tributes to lost loved ones. Each voice melded into a tapestry of shared humanity, creating an unbreakable bond that illuminated the space. The mural behind them began to resonate with deeper significance, a powerful embodiment of their collective journey rather than just Jake's alone. The air filled with compassion, each story knitting them closer together, transforming their individual narratives into something larger. Today, we stand not just as individuals, Jake said, feeling the rush of emotion surge within him. We stand as a community. As laughter mingled with tears, the vibrant energy ignited the room. Jake felt lighter, buoyed by the warmth of acceptance. For the first time, he understood that his journey out of his brother's shadow didn't mean losing his past. It meant embracing it, allowing it to reverberate through his art, but also celebrating life. "Let us create together," Jake proposed, a smile breaking on his face, the tension lifting as he met the collective gaze of the crowd. "Let us turn these stories into murals, into art that reflects our resilience." Excitement blossomed as the crowd buzzed with enthusiasm, ready to collaborate, ready to turn pain into beauty. Jake turned to George with a heartfelt smile. "Thank you for believing in me." "To us making a difference," George replied with genuine warmth. The moment felt electric, poised on the brink of change, where hope sparked like the first light of dawn breaking through the night sky. As the applause roared again, Jake felt the warmth of love and community. More than anything, he felt a deep-seated assurance that he wouldn't lose his way because the very act of sharing would guide him home. And in that spirit, a new journey began. As they gathered together, laughter filled the air, echoing through Willow Creek, overcoming the shadows of the past. They were stronger together, bound by stories that held the power to transform destinies. This was their moment. They were an enduring tapestry woven together with threads of shared experience, resilience, and love. This is the moment when Jake realized that sometimes it's not about choosing between two worlds, it's about merging them into something extraordinary. Now, before this story comes to a close, I need you all to take a moment right now. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories that will inspire you further. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and make a difference. I want to hear from you. Comment your reactions and feelings about this heartfelt ending. And please, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation in their lives. Don't wait not even one more second to share this. This is the moment to show your support for our community.